Good afternoon, friends. I've got 2:30, maybe 2:31, according to my phone, and so I think it's important for us, panel of teachers up here, they're used to starting things on time, so we should not tarry at all. I'm really appreciative to see everybody that has rolled out today. We've got, obviously, a room filled with students, which is great. I know you all are extremely busy. There are some student teachers out there, I know for a certain fact, and I know their lives are extremely, extremely busy at the moment, so I'm glad that they've made time to come back here. We've got faculty as well from around campus, so I'm pleased to see you all too. And of course, we've got our panelists, our Kansas Master teachers for the day. So you'll please just welcome them to campus with a round of applause. Busy day and the more to come as well. So we're especially appreciative. That means you all have left classrooms empty, or not empty, you've left a substitute teacher. We should have a moment of silence for the seven substitute teachers that are out there somewhere around the state of Kansas, because I know how that goes too. Events like this don't just happen, of course, so that means there are people to thank. And the Teachers College, of course, a major sponsor for this, and we are very appreciative of all the things that the Teachers College does to make this happen. There's also some financial considerations involved, and that's Bank of America, as I understand it. And so I wanted to say that as well. But when it really comes down to it, the nitty-gritty, there are individuals that have to do stuff to make a day like this happen. And so there's a committee that worked on this, and I want to say special thanks to Roger Caswell, Don Hill, Shannon Hall, Lori Mann, Roy Mann, Gwen Spade, Scott Waters, Ken Weaver, and Lucy Usey. So if you happen to know any of those folks, please pat them on the back on your way out the door and tell them you appreciate the work that they put into this, because it's a great day and we appreciate the work that they've done. I did want to say very quickly just something about this program on the off chance that you don't know exactly how this happens or how long this program has been around. As I understand, this is the first class, I guess, of master teachers came through in 1954, and so, I don't know, that makes it 64, 65 years, something like that. My math is a little shaky, but somewhere along there. I was going to read just something from the, it's not really a mission statement, but it is to recognize teachers, I'm going to quote this, who have served the profession long and well, and who also typify the outstanding qualities of earnest and conscientious teachers. Earnest and conscientious teachers. This is occupational hazard. Just as an English teacher, I got interested in the word earnest because you don't see that word that often. It's a great word. It's a good old solid word, but we don't hear it that much. And so I think it's important for us to maybe think about it just a little bit. It suggests something about a weightiness, a gravitas, I think, in some ways. It suggests something about depth, and also that this is an issue or a person that should be taken seriously. That we bring a certain kind of attention to it. And we live in a culture which we spend a lot of time paying a lot of attention to things that maybe don't really merit attention, while we ignore at our own peril a lot of things that do. And good teaching and good teachers merit our attention, and so I'm really appreciative of having a chance to take an entire day to celebrate that. That's pretty awesome. And you all being here is a part of it, and obviously the work that you all have done is a huge part of it too. So having said all that, that's a good place for us to get started. I have come up with a number of questions to ask our panelists, but at some point in the game, I'm also going to pass out some slips of paper if somebody has a question that you would like asked, and if we have time, I'm just not quite sure how the timing of all this is going to work out, but if we've got some time, I will take these questions up later and kind of riff through them and come up with some to ask the panelists as well. So in any case, if one of these comes by and you've got a question, I encourage you to write it down, and we'll hope to get to as many of those as we can. My first question actually is for the audience. I thought maybe I would give our panelists just a sense of who you all are. So with a show of hands, we'll do this quickly. We'll start just with we'll divvy it up this way. How many of you all are planning to be elementary school teachers? Shoot a hand up in the air if you would. Okay. Hand in the air if you're going to be a high school teacher. Oh, that's pretty evenly split. Is there anybody in this room who's thinking specifically, I'm going to be a middle school teacher? I feel like we need to single you all out for special accommodation or something. I mean, everybody's awesome here, but that's a whole other thing. We'll do classification real quick. Are there any freshmen in here, in the room? Sophomores? This is a group of upperclassmen. Juniors? And seniors. This is just almost everybody then. All right, just check in. I didn't know who all knew about this. How many of you, anybody in the room who just knew they always wanted to be a teacher from the time you were a little kid? Okay, is there anybody who figured this out since you got to college? Okay, that's good too. And then just one more question. How many? This is kind of this is like the free space amigo. How many of you all are either excited and or nervous about getting into the classroom, your own classroom one of these days? Okay, you've got things to learn, and so we've got these panelists here who will help us out with that. The first thing I'm going to ask the panelists to do is just make brief introductions, their name, their school, that kind of basic information. So this will go really fast, but we'll just start here with Paula on your left.
Good afternoon. My name is Paula Barr. I'm a second grade teacher at Quail Run Elementary School in Lawrence, Kansas, for Lawrence Public Schools. And this marks my 37th year as a classroom teacher.
I'm Deidre Braxmeyer, and I teach high school math at Manhattan High School, and this is my 20th year teaching.
Hi, I'm Laura Gaughan, and I'm a reading specialist at O'Laughlin Elementary in Hayes, Kansas, and this is my 27th year. And that means I teach reading recovery, title groups, and I'm an ELA support staff for teachers, for new teachers. So if one of you came into my building as a new teacher, then I would work with you.
I'm Michelle Hilliard, and I teach math at an alternative school in Mays called Complete High School Mays, and this is my 25th year of teaching.
My name is Lisa Jarvis, and I teach at Council Grove Junior Senior High School in Morris County, and I teach 9th grade English, 7th grade writing, and tier reading at the high school level, and this is my 10th year.
My name is Carolyn Phelan. I teach first grade in Salina. I teach at Gracie Elementary, and I have been teaching for 16 years.
Hello, my name is Linda Venna. I teach in Blue Valley in Kansas City, Mission Trail Elementary School. I am a K-5 reading specialist, and this is my 41st year of teaching.
Okay, excellent. You can leave it down there because now that we can just reverse direction and make it work that way. So, okay, so this first question is really just sort of designed to give you all a sense of their workspace, where they spend their time, and I know that teachers' rooms are reflective of their academic discipline that they teach, but as well as themselves. So I had asked them to think about this question. If any of us were to visit your classroom, what's an interesting detail that we might notice in that room?
Well, this is the first year that I have been in, I call a closet. It's not really a closet, but it's a lot smaller. I was in a complete, big, huge classroom for 17 years, but they needed my classroom for a section of first grade. So this year I'm in a new space. But when you walk into my classroom, you will see a sign that says Vennaville, because that's what I call my classroom, Vennaville. Because we are a community of learners. And I'm the mayor, but everybody knows that when they come in my room, you can name your class anything you want, but it's just kind of a fun thing, and they like to know they're going down to Vennaville. That's what they tell their teachers when it's time for reading.
Okay, one thing I've noticed is that students are struggling with concentration and focus, and they need lots of movement. So something you might notice in my room would be flexible seating. It is kind of new to the building. I was the guinea pig. So far, so good. But then we have stability balls. We have low portable desks, beanbag chairs. I have tables that are lowered, so they're sitting on the floor. I have standing tables. Those get a lot of use after we've been on the carpet for a little bit. Just different options for comfort and choice and whatever works best for them.
As I was thinking about this question, I was visualizing my room, and I'm in an older building, so we have like plaster type walls, and so it's a little bit difficult to get items to hang up there. But when you walk in my room, you will see that I have student projects all throughout my room hanging up, usually from past students who have let me keep them, and so they've been really inspiration for current students as they're moving forward, and then just walls that teach. So there's a lot of informative information or visual stimuli to help the students as they're going throughout the class period.
This was a hard one for me because in my school, I have a traditional classroom, but then we teach everywhere in our school. I have a store that my students run at a retirement community, and so that's our classroom on some days. But if I were talking about my traditional classroom, I have the word yet all over my wall because I'm really big in the growth mindset. And so when students first come in, they're like, why does it say yet? Why does it say yet? And I'm like, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. And so in math, kids hate it and they think they're not good at it. And it's because they haven't learned it yet. And so they finally get it and they go, I get it. It's okay that I don't know that yet, but I'll learn it.
As a reading teacher, I have books, children's books galore all over in my classroom. And I would encourage you, no matter what you're going to teach someday, to start finding those books. Go to garage sales and try to find your best deals on books. If you want to encourage literacy and children to love reading, then you need to have books everywhere that would appeal to them.
Well, I teach math, so you might expect a really boring answer. But on my board, it says today is, and there are multiple holidays going on every day, in case you did not realize that, but you can find really fun, today is International Day of. Speaking of, today is the Global Day of the Engineer, and so students are intrigued by that. Sometimes I can work it into the lesson if I plan in advance. A couple weeks ago, it was a National Joe Day, and I have 2 Joes in class, and we were able to research that and hopefully get them some gifts from their family later on that evening. But it's a lot of fun. It's easy, plan in advance. You can choose lots of good ones. Just don't pick things like International Wine Tasting Day or things like that.
Well, if you walk in my classroom, first of all, you might have trouble finding the teacher. I am there, but I'm not standing in front of the room addressing a room full of 27 students who are sitting at their desk looking at me admiringly, although that does sound kind of nice. They are all over the place. They're all at different tables, all in different spots at the same time, and I am down in the mix, on my knees, elbow to elbow, with groups of students and individual, because my job has changed quite a bit in the last few years. I'm no longer the girl who stands in front of the room, and it's my job to entertain them to learn. Now it's their job to do the work of the learning, and my job is to facilitate that learning.
Okay, thanks. I had no idea how that question would go, and so that was really great. I appreciate it. International Joe Day. Are there any Joes out there in the audience today? Who knew? You had a day. My second question, I was thinking about students that are out student teaching right now, and they learned quickly that teaching involves a lot of moving parts. And so I had a question about organization. I'm not sure that's working. I had a question about organization. And it was just essentially this. Could you share an organizational tip, an idea that you have that has really worked for you?
When I think of classroom organization, I don't necessarily think of the planning and the copying and the getting the materials ready. You'll have plenty of that, whether you like it or not. What I think of is organizational tips of how that classroom is running successfully and smoothly. And so for me, that means that when I deal with my second graders, my 7 and 8-year-olds, I need to always be kind first, and I need to be firm and consistent, but I always need to deliver criticism with a sense of humor. So a quick example is, I just thought of this because yesterday, a young friend in my classroom who's somewhat challenged behaviorally, was having a particularly difficult day. And I in my head, you know, when you have those little thought clouds above your head, my brain was thinking, now listen, you little stinker, it's about time you shape up. But what came out of my mouth was, it's a good thing I love you so much, Eddie. So try to think in organization in your classroom. Think about talking to your kids with a sense of humor, because that's going to make everything run a whole lot smoother.
This is probably more practical for middle school or high school teachers, but with experience, you'll know about how long it takes to teach a particular unit, and early on you can find that information out from a mentor or a fellow teacher. But I develop a schedule that I give to the students at the beginning of the unit, and I have all of the things that I'd like to do with them, and I'll sometimes put words on there, like if I have an idea for a review, let's say connected to Kansas Day, and I print it on there, and it sort of obligates me then to fulfill that, or else I have to come back to the students and say, sorry, it's not actually about Kansas Day, it's just this worksheet today. So it holds me accountable if I can get everything on paper and give it to someone else and then stick to my plan.
I just try to be organized by filing things in a file cabinet and using my computer to save files on there. That's how I keep myself organized.
I'm a boring math teacher, and I'm a list maker. So I have lists for my lists, and some days my list is long and nothing gets crossed off. So I might add something at the bottom that I did that day that wasn't on my list to check it off so that I feel like I did something for the day. It makes you feel really good.
One item in terms of like what you can have in your classroom would be a missing work bulletin board. And so when I have students who are absent, I write down that they're absent. Any handouts I give, I staple them together, put their name on it, I put it in the bulletin board. And then that way, when students come in and they say, what did I miss? I'll say, well, check the bulletin board first. And then if there's anything I need to explain, I'll go from there. The other item is we have recently become a one-to-one school. And so I had already been using Google Classroom, but thankfully they've allowed like a stream page and a classwork page. And so organizing things by your header, but then also numbering the assignments under that, because then you can tell students it's number 4 in this header, because otherwise they will like scroll until the midnight hits and they will not find it. So that's a good tip.
Okay, I would just say file it away immediately. Don't be the vertical stacker, that vertical filing at the edge of the desk that gets knocked over and it's gone forever. So just file it away immediately, whether it's paper and you file it somewhere or it's hard copy, put it in that folder on that drive, make sure it's there. And then if you are a sticky note person, you like your lists, there's desktop sticky notes that save me on a daily basis because it's right there on my computer. I can't accidentally drop it in the trash or it gets stuck to something else. It's right there.
And I would say to start off your school year, get a jump start on those procedures and routines. There's a great book by Harry Wong called The First Days of School. And there are many, many ideas in there that can give you some tips to try. And I also say, let the parents know from the get-go that you care about their child. And that will definitely make your year go better.
All right. Michelle, did I understand you to say that you put something on your checklist that you can just check right off? And
I sure do.
All right, I do too. I didn't check it. I thought maybe I was.
It's things that I've already done.
That's what I'm saying. It's something I've already done, but I've just.
But I did it that
something
day.
satisfying about
Like
checking
I used
something.
the restroom before noon.
Well, maybe I'm
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. So we know that schools are in the news a lot, and usually the focus is on what's going on with that school or what's wrong with these teachers or something like that. It's just, but we also know that the students, of course, are really the most important element of the whole thing. Let's talk about just a little bit, if we could, challenges that you see facing your students today.
Well, each student is unique in their challenges, but I find that poverty and family factors really play into challenges that kids are seeing today. They can't help it. They can't do anything about it. I teach reading, so I send a book home every day for them in a book bag for them to read and practice at home. And I cannot tell you how many times parents just don't have the time to sit down with that child, and it's probably why they're having trouble with reading. But it's just mom's trying to get food on the table and then get everybody ready for bed and start over again. So I find that they're already at a big disadvantage when there's poverty and family factors going between homes and all sorts of things. I'll just stop at that one because I know there's a lot of others. But
just as I mentioned earlier, concentration and focus, it seems to be on the rise. I've only been teaching 16 years, but I can definitely see a difference even within those years. Some of them are very easily distracted from learning opportunities. They might avoid tasks that require sustained mental effort, demonstrate impulsiveness. It doesn't take long for those behaviors to affect their academics, which then affects their confidence level as well.
I would say with the ninth graders that I deal with, perseverance through difficulties and being able to move past that instant gratification, because we're in such like I click it, I'm done, I turn my assignment in, I'm done. They think that they're done, but they're not. So working with trying to get them to move past that mindset and work on the growth and not just, I'm done.
For me, at the high school level, social media and that constant never being able to turn yourself off, or the students not being able to turn themselves off, it frightens me to think of my life when I was in high school if we'd had social media. I feel sorry for kids now that, you guys have lived it, that social media aspect, and it's always there. They're always plugged in. They can't get away from it, and it's like it's an extension of their bodies. And I know people say, oh, let them have their phones because they are a learning tool. They are, but when they're on Facebook and Snapchat and worried about their streaks, and to me, I think students, social media is the biggest, or one of the biggest challenges that I have in my classroom with students.
This answer is the same as all of theirs in a different way. It's distractions. It's technology. It's cell phones, video games. Of course, technology has a great place, and kids can learn from that in a wonderful way, but then it has its distractions too. And as Linda said, no face-to-face time with their parents. No looking somebody in the eye and talking to them or reading their book to them because they need to get on their video game or check their social media. So I think that is a big problem.
This piggybacks a little bit on what has been said, but I feel like students, whether they're high achieving or struggling students, struggle to find a balance between what is healthy stress and always something you're going to experience, and what is moving towards creating anxious feelings and learning how to manage that and move on from that. And a lot of the factors that they have mentioned contribute to that stress versus anxiety, and even worse sometimes.
My colleagues said it all very well. I might just add to that self-reliance, the ability to have enough confidence in yourself, or to be able to be a risk taker enough to give things a try and not have the first thing that you do run to the teacher. I don't know what to do. To be able to look at it and figure it out for yourself, so that we really work towards that.
I think I'm going to ask a follow-up question to this, because there was a larger theme there about distractions as you kind of started pulling some of those answers together. So I know that's something that everybody in this room is having to deal with as well in your field experiences. So given that that's such a prevalent issue, no matter which way we sort of talk about it, what can we do? So what can we do to address that? How can we help our students with this, knowing that they're coming into our classrooms with all of these distractions? We do not have to go down the line for this answer, so if anybody would like to take a shot at this, I'm just going to let somebody go.
Okay. Well, I would just say that we have to think about how we are teaching. In other words, the kiddos that come to me now, 2018, 2019, are a whole lot different than the kiddos that I started my career with in the 80s. And they didn't have computers at home, and they didn't have the distractions. They had a TV and an 8-track player or a cassette tape deck, and that was about it. The kiddos that walk into my classroom now have opportunities to, if they want to know something, they Google it. They ask Siri. They don't. Their opportunities for knowledge are just huge. So we may have to think about the way we teach our students, so that we are changing maybe how we approach instruction to meet needs of kiddos who are used to immediate gratification. We're not going to be going back. Once you get a microwave oven, you're not going to go back to never using it, right? Once you have it and you know how great it is and it heats your food up, you're not going to go back to not using it. It's the same way with technology. We're not going to go back to not using technology. So now we need to figure out, how are we going to take these kiddos who've had technology in their hands since they were 18 months old, and how are we going to use that to our advantage?
I have found that it's helpful to set very clear expectations at the beginning. It is worth the time to discuss at the beginning of the year and not just assume, well, they're high school students, they don't want to hear another teacher saying, keep your cell phones away, but talking about why and when they should keep things away, and also why and when it should be used as a resource. I have also implemented academic expectations as far as classroom behavior at the upper levels, and students self-grade them, and they're actually very honest, and they will downscore themselves when they know that they have maybe been distracted by things. They don't give themselves a 3 out of 3, they'll give themselves a 1 out of 3. And then they have to follow up in the next unit by automatically writing their goal for the following unit to address something that was a weakness in the prior unit. And it just opens the door for a conversation between them when they have also identified that, yeah, I know it's a weakness, but I can't stop doing it. And rather than you saying, put your phone away, put your phone away, put your phone away, would be my tip.
Anybody else want to take a crack at that?
Modeling. I think I have a parent in my classroom right now that's a younger student, and when there's downtime and there's no one to help immediately, he goes to his phone. It's his go-to. And my phone is upside down on my desk and off, and I'm not on my phone ever. And when kids are with me, when I'm with kids and we're not in the classroom, I'm not on my phone. I'm with them undivided. I have my undivided attention. And so I think we can model a lot of that. And they see the teachers. I walk into teachers' classrooms and I see them on their phones. I've been to schools and teachers are on their phones. Stop being on your phone. And I love you guys, because I do not say, I've been looking, and I do not say a teacher in me has been looking, and there's not one phone. And so, yay, good for you. So I think that is my biggest thing, is the modeling. I see you can be upside down, it's okay. I did that. It's a good teacher thing.
I'm just going to agree and say set those high expectations to begin with. Fortunately, I work in a school where we decided as a staff that we were going to create a building-wide policy. So we have, like for the cell phones, specifically holders, and so a number that's assigned to every student who walks into the room. They put it in there, they sit down, it stays in there till the bell rings. And so that's really helped a lot, because that was not there when I first started teaching at that district. And so I think, being willing to have the conversation, the difficult conversations, getting people who are like-minded, who want change. You have to be able to surround you with good people in order to move forward, and then have that discussion with administration, even though it might be difficult. If you want change in your building, you have to be a voice.
Well, teaching 6 and 7-year-olds, I do not deal with the phone issue, thankfully. Social media, not an issue yet, and it may get down to first grade, who knows. But I'd say at my age level with distractions, your biggest thing is just movement. Allow them to move, whether it's cake and cooperative learning, or it's the flexible seating or something. Their bodies need it, their brains need it, and so instead of saying, no, sit still, listen, just let them do what they need to do.
I was going to say the same thing you said, because I work primarily with kindergarten, first and second. Not one of them have a phone yet. But we do exactly what you do. We have flexible seating, and we also do fitness breaks, where the teacher will take them out for just a quick little 5-10 minute walk around the track or around the building, and it really helps with the distractions. They come back in ready to learn, and it does help get them up and moving.
Right. I don't know if any of you all noticed, but Paula went old school with the reference. She said something about 8-track tapes earlier, and so if you don't know what that is, just find somebody my age or older, and we'll be happy to.
Just Google it.
Just Google it. We'll explain everything. So one last question in this round before we switch gears just a little bit. Can you hear me okay? Shannon, can you hear me? Sorry, the microphone was just, I think, picking up the other microphone. I have noticed, and you all may have noticed this as well, that everybody has an opinion about schools and how they could be better. And I think in part that's because everybody went to school, and so everybody's got this idea that they know. So my question to you all would be to talk a little bit about what you think might be a common misconception about schools or about teaching and about teachers, and what can we do to help address that misconception?
I believe a lot of people think teaching is an 8 to 3 job and that you get your summers off and you get paid for it. Well, actually, your paychecks are split up in 12 months and they're split around there. So you're not getting paid for work that you are not doing. But I think maybe to combat that, we need to be able to find a balance between your personal life and your professional life. At one time in my career, I was a peer assistant for Blue Valley Schools, and I had so many new to the profession teachers who would leave when the custodians left at 11. And I would say to them, it's not healthy. You're going to be sick. This is not good for you. I know you think you've got all these things that you need to do, but you need to find a way to be a little bit more productive during the day and go home at a decent time. And I think a lot of times we create those maybe misconceptions and, yeah, we have some days off. I had 8 snow days this year. Didn't really like that, but I had to make them up. But truly you need to find a little balance between your personal and your professional life.
I think one of the misconceptions is that anyone can teach. It's easy. Some people use it as their fallback plan. Oh, I thought I was going to do this, but didn't pass that math class. I'll just teach. I think the only way to really combat it is just to educate people on how much really does go into teaching. It's not just hanging out with the kids all day. There's a lot of extra hours, hopefully not as many as what she was talking about, but there is a lot of patience, a lot of time, a lot of continuing education, whether it's on weekends or summers, and I don't think everyone really understands that.
I think one thing that some people think about is as a single subject teacher, I teach English. I only teach them how to read, I teach them how to write. But really, we're teaching the whole student. Students are not coming with the social emotional skills that they might have been taught to them by their parents. A lot of parents do not have the skills that maybe were innate at some point, in previous years. And so we're having to teach them organizational skills, how to have conflict resolution, and that can all be done within your classroom. And so I think just expressing that it's not just about the subject area, but we're here because we're teaching students and we're teaching people how to be better people in society when they leave.
Those who can do, those who can't teach. I hate that because it makes it seem like we don't want to be changing lives. We don't want to be making a difference in people's lives. And sometimes I think we don't value ourselves the way we should value our profession. We teach everyone. We taught everyone, every profession, we started them out. And we should be proud of that. And so when somebody says, I'm an engineer and I'm making all this money, I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. I'm teaching engineers. And so I think we need to be proud about what we're doing and not act like, I'm just a teacher. Be proud of what you're doing because you are changing far more lives and you will change far more lives than any engineer will do or any doctor. Well, doctors, I don't know, they might change some lives. But we taught the doctors. And so we need to value ourselves and you need to value yourselves and you need to be proud of what you're doing and proud of this profession. This is what I chose. Many of you've wanted to do it your whole life. And so be proud.
That is so true, Michelle. That's so good. And I wrote the exact same thing, that people think that teaching is easy, and it is not easy. It is so much work. Our teachers right now are saying, please, nothing new. Just don't give us any new curriculum. Just let us figure out what we're doing right now, because there's so much to do. It's a lot of hard work.
I think one misconception among teachers is that the only people who value education are other educators, and the only people who understand and appreciate what we really do are other educators and ourselves. But if you work hard, if you invest in your students in your school, you will be appreciated by parents, by students, by your administrators. Good teaching is good teaching. It is noticed, it is appreciated. It's not always on Twitter, it's not always in the newspapers, and we could do a better job with that, making sure that we broadcast the 9 out of 10 great things that are going on, but we get caught up in the 10% of things that get under our skin or cause us worry and stress. But there's a lot of great things going on too, and you will feel appreciated.
all these ladies did such a nice job of explaining that. I think I'm just going to go with, for those of you who are going to be elementary teachers, just a misconception that you might have is that you'll walk into the classroom and all those little guys are going to do just what you say and they're going to love you. And when you spend 4 or 5 hours at night coming up with this absolutely fabulous activity and you bring it out the next day, they're just going to think you're a miracle worker. I wish that were true every day. They will love you, but it's a lot of work, and you have to put in the time to build that community with them and build relationships with them. And they're not always going to do what you say, and you have to have the tricks in your bag to be able to handle that.
Okay, so I'm going to shift gears for the next round, and it's going to be it's a fill in the blank kind of an answer. Before I do, or while we're listening to the answers to this next question I'm going to pose, I'm going to pass out some slips. So if you did have a question that you were interested in asking, I'd like for you to write it down in your most legible handwriting, and then I'll just pick them up just in a little bit, and hopefully we'll have some time at the tail end to be able to get in some of those questions as well. So anyway, be looking for those. I'll probably just give them to the people at the end of the aisle and let you pass them down. If you want one, great. If you don't, no worries. So the fill-in-the-blank statement is this, and this was inspired by the fact that I read someplace, and Lucy, you might have been the one who wrote this, I'm not sure. I think that there are like 180 years of teaching experience. Did I get that number right? Is that, it seemed high.
Close.
Okay, so, a bunch.
A bunch.
Okay, it's a bunch. It's
150 plus.
Yeah, let's say 150 plus, what do we say? That's a ton of experience, and I was just thinking about that, and so this was the sentence that I wrote, and they're going to fill in the blanks. And you can also expand on it once you've filled in the blanks. The statement is, when I started teaching, I thought, but now I realize something else. So in any case, when I started teaching, I thought this, but now I realize that. And I'll let you all fill that in, and then you can expand a little bit if you'd like to.
Okay. When I first started teaching, I thought that being an educator was just a job, that you would go to school and you'd make your plans, and that you would plan the day out and go home at 3:30, and that would be that. But I have learned that it is not just a job. It's much more than that. It becomes your life, and I know you have to work really hard to make that personal time, but when you become a teacher and you find you love what you do, it's your passion, and it's your life, and you are always looking for ways to be better. What else can I read? What seminar can I attend? Where's the answer for that one kiddo I haven't found the answer for yet? So what I thought was going to be a job that I got paid for and showed up at 8 and left at 3 turned out to be something that has consumed a great deal of my time and my life.
When I first started teaching, I thought there would be a limited number of things that I could do with, say, a logarithm. But now I realize that I will probably never run out of strategies for teaching those. And also, you get bored. If you're an effective teacher in the classroom, you will get bored. Even if you have a fantastic assignment, you can't do it 5 years in a row without wanting to switch it up a little bit and try something new.
When I first started, I thought I knew how to teach kids to read, and I absolutely did not. And I had a great education. So I just want to tell you, when you go out and get started, don't forget, don't be ashamed to ask questions. Ask your colleagues around you, ask your people around you for help, and they're great people. Teachers are great people, really, all around you. Don't be afraid to ask them for help.
When I first started teaching, I thought that all kids would be excited to come to school and that we could save all of them. But now I realize that some aren't excited to come to school, and some of them have to know that they have to help themselves before you can help them. And we have to provide a place, and we have to build relationships with them and make school a place that they want to be and that they want to come, and that they don't feel. I asked some students yesterday about their perfect teacher, and they said they don't want to feel dumb. I thought, a teacher has made you feel dumb? How sad is that? No wonder kids aren't excited to come to school. And so we have to make school a place where they want to come. And that, my school, we do that. At the alternative school, the kids, we're a family, and they say that. I stopped counting down the days to spring break and the days to summer vacation. I used to do it every year with my middle school kids. I would count down the days, and we'd do it together. But at the alternative school, they want to be at school. We're their family. And so I don't count down days anymore because they want to be there. They don't want to go on vacation. They don't want to go, they don't want to break for summer. They want to be with us because we're their family. So you have to make kids feel like they belong. You have to build those relationships with them before you teach them anything. You can't teach them anything. Content doesn't matter if you don't have that relationship with your students.
When I started teaching, I thought that I needed to score or get a grade for every assignment, which is daunting. So it's not about the score, the grade, it's about the feedback and being able to provide feedback in a timely manner, no matter whether the feedback is written or verbal, or whether it's a conference, in a small group. Doesn't always have to be individual, but being able to provide that feedback in the most timely, efficient manner possible allows your student to grow. If you don't give feedback until 3 weeks after the assignment, there's nowhere for them to go during that time.
When I first started teaching, I thought that I was on my own. My classroom was a little island where I was going to sink or swim, and all those little faces were counting on me. But now I realize it's very collaborative. Everyone has their strengths, and we're better when we work together.
When I first started teaching in the dark ages, I thought I knew a lot. Then I realized that I am learning every day. And I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm learning from my students every day, and I try to learn something new every day. And you will find that all of your classes are fabulous. They're going to give you great tips and strategies. But when you get out there and get in, well, you know, because you're student teaching, most of you right now, so I'm preaching to the choir. But when you get out there, it's different. And every single hour is different. And you'll kind of sometimes have to just learn as you go along, but be a lifelong learner.
So I'm going to mix up the order of the questions just a little bit. I'm just trying to keep my eye on the clock and figure out where we are. So when I was an undergraduate student, I remember one of my professors saying this. He said, after you've been teaching for 15 years, you have to follow this. After you've been teaching for 15 years, he said, you can either have 15 years of experience or 1 year of experience 15 times. And I had to think about that a little bit. I didn't quite follow that. So after 15 years of teaching, you can either have 15 years of experience or you can have 1 year of experience 15 times. And so and I think that's probably true. I think that we want to make sure that we're continuing to develop and grow. Just because you are out of college, somebody just used the phrase lifelong learner, but we grow professionally. So one of the questions I wanted you all to address was to talk a little bit about what has been the most helpful for you, or at least a helpful thing for you in terms of continuing to develop as a professional.
Collaboration and professional learning is probably foremost in the front. I have found that when you get together, in fact, I even enjoyed collaborating with my new friend Laura, being a reading specialist too in Hayes, and since I'm in Blue Valley and we've been trading ideas and assessment things too, it really does help validate the work that you do when you talk to somebody else and find out, oh, they feel the same way you do. They know exactly what you're talking about, or they can help you. Professional learning, I love it when we have professional learning days, if it really pertains to me. I just don't like it when I feel like it might be a waste of my time to go, I'm sorry to say this, but to the math workshop, since I teach reading, but anyway. But sorry about that, math teacher. But I really do feel like that the collaboration between your colleagues is huge.
I was going to say that same thing. We, in my district, we have professional learning communities, and so we meet with our teams for reading once a week. We meet with our teams for math once a week. We obviously meet a lot more than that. Sometimes we say our PLCs are at the dismissal spot because we're talking there too. But just, I may have an issue with a kiddo that I have tried everything and I just cannot quite seem to solve that issue. But when I'm talking about it with them, they're like, oh, well, try this. And it works perfectly. So just, collaborating with your team and just constantly trying to find solutions for any student difficulties that come up.
I agree with everything they've said so far. Joining or having people around you who are like-minded, who want the same goals of you, even if they teach a different subject area, they can often be a sounding board for how you can deal with a certain situation. There are a lot of online platforms that you can join professional groups through social media for free, and so you can collaborate with people all over the United States. And so that's really been an eye-opener for me in the past few years, is being able to share resources and get ideas, not just from those in your building who are great, but when you're in a small district and you are the single English teacher or math teacher, you need to be able to reach out. And so that would be one way you can do that.
Ditto. The kids are really good too at helping you develop as a professional because they have really good ideas sometimes. And sometimes you take them as they are, and sometimes you're like, yeah, thanks for that, but we won't be doing that. But they do. I had a girl yesterday that said, why don't they train teachers and middle school teachers in the learning styles? Why don't they have a teacher that they train how to teach kinesthetically, and a teacher who is a visual learner teacher? And then they take all the visual learners and they put those kids with that teacher and all the kinesthetic. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty good idea. And so kids have really good ideas too, but colleagues, my family, everyone in my family is a teacher. All my friends are teachers. You surround yourself with people you love, and I love teachers.
Okay, I would say exactly the same thing. Professional development, your colleagues, and I'll just add to that your administration. That's really key because you want to feel like you have a voice to your administrator, and that's an important relationship for you to work on when you're new at a school, is talk to your administrator. And hopefully you'll feel like you have a voice to them, and that will help you to grow also professionally.
I think the only thing I would add is read. There's lots of great books. I'm sure you could find tons of recommendations from any teacher with any experience, or you might have read some yourself, or follow people on Twitter, follow some blogs that you like, but even if it's just a little bit here and there, read when you can.
And I would add, if you have if it's at all possible to attend a national conference. And now when you're a student, it's a little bit cheaper. But even if 6 of you have to share a room and somebody sleeps in the bathtub, do it, because it is so worth your time and your money. You cannot believe what happens to you as an educator when you are surrounded by people from all over the country. And in some national conferences, there'll be international people there. And the possibilities your eyes are open to so many more things than what you will see in your classroom and limited to your building and even your district, your town, your state. You get to have expose yourself to perspectives from all over, and it really changes how you think about education. So I would definitely recommend that. And then after you see reading heroes and superstars and at national conferences or education superstars, you start to read their books and you start to follow them on Twitter, and then all of a sudden, you're this education nerd. I'm not saying I am, but but it really does have a great impact on your teaching.
So I'm no expert in job interviewing, but Laura may have given you all a really good tip, because I think there's that dreaded question in job interviews when somebody says, well, what questions do you have for us? And I'm thinking that talking to a principal or talking to a department chair about what kind of opportunities are available in this school or in this school district for professional development would send it, A, it's a good question, and B, it would send a strong signal about what kind of person you're going to be on that faculty. So I think that's really good. Plus, I never heard the advice, sleep in a bathtub. And that, so I've given a lot of advice over the years to teachers, but now to add that, that's a good idea. Right, for those conferences. So if you've got a question, if you have written a question down, if you would pass it down to the folks sitting on the end of the aisle, I'm going to pick those up in just a second, and we'll take a look at those if we've got a little bit of time left. Next question. I was watching a recording of a previous Kansas Master Teachers panel just in preparation for today, and one of the questions that was asked was about the biggest change in education that the teachers had seen, and the answer was unanimous. Everybody said technology over and over and over again. So a variation on that question would just be to let you all talk a little bit. Some of you have already touched on this some, but what impact has technology, positive or negative, had on your teaching?
Well, as I mentioned before, technology is here to stay. And so we as teachers, I think it's our responsibility to allow our students to use technology in a purposeful way in the classroom. That's different being said from my mouth as a second grade teacher compared to a high school teacher, because my kiddos aren't bringing phones to the classroom. So when I think of technology in the classroom, I think of the devices that my students have. But what I have to do is I have to remember that for them, these devices have only meant entertainment. And so now it's my job to teach them how to make them how to turn these devices into purposeful educational tools, that therefore creating a way for you to demonstrate to me that you have a good grasp of the knowledge that I'm trying to teach you, that you're using the apps on the device or Google Slides or Google Draw or whatever it is that we're doing. You're using those tools to show me and to convince me that you understand what it is we're talking about and we're doing here, what I'm trying to teach you, but also to understand that those devices are a way for those kiddos to get that information, which makes them more independent. So for example, in my classroom, I can make a video of myself teaching a math lesson. And those kiddos who learn best by a video can sit over here at this table and work collaboratively together with that video. That frees me up. I don't have to now stand in front of 24 students, or in my classroom 27, and teach the same lesson to the entire class when the 6 back here knew this skill last year and they're eating their Reese's in the back of the room because they are so bored. And the 5 up here in front, my Swiss cheese kids, I'm dragging them along because they didn't get the curriculum last year. They were so far behind. They have holes in all their learning. And I'm just standing right here in front of them going, honey, we're right here on number 4. Stick with us. And so I don't have to do that because those kiddos who need to have me face-to-face every day, technology allows me to do that. It allows me to be 8 teachers in the classroom because I can have 8 different lessons going on at the same time as long as I've taken the time to provide quality videos for them to watch. And then I can go around and come around behind them and say, okay, how are we doing? What else do you need? But technology can be a very useful tool for us. We just need to change it from entertainment to educational.
In my classroom, I found that using technology has allowed me to remove a lot of the low-level questions of do this, do this, do this. You know, they can find the busy work type things on their calculator or other graphing software and such, and we can move into the analyze and create and, you know, synthesize if you're thinking of the Bloom's taxonomy. And we can chop off the first couple layers of it and get right to the things that matter in today's world.
Okay, so positively, technology has given us online books. So I'm a reading teacher, and it's given us EPIC and Raz Kids and things like that, online reading, which is awesome because, like I said, start building your libraries now because that's going to take you a while. But if you can't, you can also rely on some online technology, online reading for kids. That helps a lot. There are lots of those things out there. We can also access articles that do professional learning online, and we read a book about sea turtles the other day. I pulled up a video real quick and can show the kids. So that instant access to technology is really nice.
When I first started to get ideas for different lessons that I did, I had to go to books. And I had file cabinet upon file cabinet upon file cabinet of books, workbooks, and I would have to thumb through to find the best assignment that I could find. And now I just Google it, and it's really awesome. So you guys are so lucky that you have that. So that has been life-changing. And just the individualizing piece. You know, each student at my school, the students are all at different levels, and so I can have individual lessons for each student, so they're not all on the same page at the same time. And then on the negative side, I've already talked about phones, but one thing I forgot to mention is if you educate your parents on phones also, that's helpful. If you let the parents know, during our block classes, we put our phones in the calculator pockets, and they won't be available from 8:25 to 11:30. Call the office if it's an emergency, because the kids 90% of the time go, it's my mom texting, it's my mom texting. So if you can educate the parents and say, hey, look, we're learning here, we're not going to have the phones to be texting, so if you need something, call the office. That helps.
I would say that Google Classroom has been a huge technological increase and
Platform.
for me to use in my class. Just for organization, for resources, students don't always, the paper option is there, but for those that lose those often, it's available online, but with that you have to be careful, you have to plan, because not all students are going to have access to do work outside of school. And so when you think about that and you're planning your lessons, you need to give them adequate time to do it in class and multiple days to complete it if you want to have a high completion rate with your students. And another note, if you are recording yourself, like I was getting my sub-plans ready, you should lock the door when you're doing the screencastify, because otherwise it took me 30 minutes to record a 2-minute video because of how many people were coming in and out of my room, whether it be other teachers or staff. And one student yelled, I love you, Mrs. Jarvis, and I had to replay my video because it was right in the middle. And I was like, I love you too, but please go.
Well, with the age level I teach, I don't deal with a lot of the negative parts that the teachers of older children deal with. For me, it's been a positive because I'm able to, especially like during small group rotation time, I can do targeted, differentiated instruction using the Chromebooks and those sorts of things, where otherwise it may have just ended up being busy work or a game. So for me, it's been positive.
For me too. I love it, Paula, when you talked about making sure that the devices were purposeful tools, because all of our students in my building in Blue Valley have iPads. Now, they don't get to take them home, but they stay in the cart overnight, so they're charged up, ready for the next day. And they're great. Me, as a reading teacher, I just love having a book in my hand, and I like having the kids have books in their hands. But they love the ebooks too, and there's a time and a place for those. And I think for me too, Google changed our lives. There's no card catalogs anymore. Remember those? You guys won't know what those are, but some of you in the room might. But it's just the way that research is at their fingertips, and it's really an awesome thing. And I think we're living through some really good times.
I think the fact that the microphone is cutting in and out on a question about technology, that might mean something, perhaps. We're running pretty short on time. I think we only have 15 minutes left, and so I was just skimming through the questions. I appreciate everybody who submitted a question. They were awesome questions, and if we go through all of them, you all will just have to stay through Friday afternoon, and we'll make them. So I had to whittle them down, and so I apologize. It's always the clock on the wall. It's always the thing that gets you when you're teaching that you just have to battle against. So we'll just do a few of these before we finish, if we have time, with a quick lightning round, and then we'll be done. So the first question that I picked out of the ones that were submitted is an issue that everybody who teaches for more than 5 minutes would face, and it's this: what are some ways to work with students that don't want to learn, and how can you encourage them? And so for this, it doesn't have to go all the way down. Everybody doesn't have to chip in, so I'm just going to rely on you all to make eye contact with each other and take the mic.
Well, I work with struggling readers, so motivation for them can sometimes be a real challenge. I try to find things that they can read that they're interested in. And I always tell their parents, take them to Barnes & Noble, there's so many books there. Find something that they're interested in. If they like sports, there's some great sports books. And I try to find things that on their level. And I also tell them, I don't care what they're reading. It could be a magazine. It could be anything as long as they're reading and practicing at home. So I would say it's tough to motivate the ones that don't want to be there. There's a great book that I have found helped me, and maybe the middle school teachers know about it. It's called Lifers, and it's written by Pamela Mueller, and it talks about working with at-risk adolescent readers and some of the things that we've done in elementary school that have created some of the at-risk adolescent readers. Really was an eye-opening book for me as a reading specialist, but and how to motivate kids that don't want to read. Because reading, I'm sorry, Paula, and I think we all think reading affects everything, but but I know math does too. But I would just say find something that they're really interested in and kind of head them that way would be a great idea.
Hello, there we go. Definitely find their interests. I mean, there was one year that I learned everything there was to know about sharks ever, because that was what he was interested in. Or Fly Guy, those are some fun books. But also build those relationships with them. When they know that you genuinely care, they will work so hard for you. So just work on building those relationships and that trust level.
With that, relationships, going to some of their outside of school activities and supporting them makes a large impact, and then also providing choice within the classroom, and so that you're going to get more buy-in if they have ownership over what they're doing in the classroom.
Relationships is my deal, and so you've got to build relationships, and then also find the passion. What's the student's passion? What do they want to do? What do they want to be? At the high school level. And I teach math, and I don't teach math to every kid the same way, because the kid that's going to go to cosmetology school and the kid that's going to go to med school, they don't need the same kind of math, and I know they don't need the same kind of math. And so teaching them to be good people, the academics will come, building relationships, going to activities that you do not want to go to sometimes, but you know that that's going to make them feel good. That is huge, and it's not that much time out of your day that will make the rest of your year so fantastic.
Build relationships, love those kids, and they'll love you back, and they'll try extra hard for you. That's the secret.
I would say plan for that. Don't wait until, the students show that they're not interested or disengaged. Assume that you're going to have a student that needs that extra bit, and it'll help everyone. And also, put it back on yourself. I'll find success with students saying, rather than telling them you have to do this or you're going to get this grade, I'll tell them, you are going to give me a nervous breakdown. I'm going to lose sleep tonight if I don't see that you can get at least 3 of these 5 done before we go. And I know that you don't want me to, not eat tonight because I'm really upset about that. And so using humor and not jumping to, the most severe consequence or even a mild consequence right away, give them a chance to respond and then come back to it. I'm already developing a stomachache. I see you're not working, and, making light of things sometimes. Try that first, and it'll fix a lot of things.
What are we up to today, Mrs. Barr, is the running joke in my classroom as they walk in every morning. Somebody says, what are you up to today, Mrs. Barr? And I'll say, well, check the table. And next to my desk is a table where all the materials for the whole day are laid out. And they go to the table and they talk to each other and they try to figure out what I'm up to today. And before they've left the night before, I've given them the coming attractions of tomorrow. So when they walk out the door, they're already thinking, oh, tomorrow she said we were going to do this and this and this. And so when they get up in the morning, that's the first thing they're thinking is, oh, today is going to be a great day because she said we're going to do this, this, and this. And not every single day is going to be absolutely fabulous, but you can try to make it sound fabulous, and then they want to come.
Thanks. This is another excellent question, and it's one that I suspect is to one degree or the other on everybody's mind. What tips do you have to help a first-year teacher survive? Good, strong word, survive there. What do you do to help them survive that first year?
First of all, I work with a lot of first-year teachers. So first of all, go ahead right now And no, you're going to fail some things. You're not going to be it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Go ahead and give yourself permission to do that right now, and know that it's okay. It is okay. None of us at this table were fabulous teachers our first year. In fact, I just hope somebody taught the first class of first graders I ever had how to read, because I didn't. I can tell you that. So make sure that you have, quickly as you can, you get your posse together. You find those positive teachers in the building who are going to be your support system, because you are going to need them. It's not a walk in the park. It's going to be rough. You're going to walk in and they're not going to do what you say. You're going to have fabulous activities that fall apart. You're going to fail. One of the things that you can do is give your kids the gift of watching you fail graciously. There's a lot of times when I tried new things in front of my students, especially that had to do with technology. I'm a woman in her late 50s. When they brought technology into my classroom, it scared the pants off of me. And I had to stand up in front of all these students and act like I knew what I was doing. And so I had a lot of days where I failed. But you know what? Even though I wanted to go lay in the corner and cry and kick and scream, I stood in front of them and had a sense of humor and said, okay, we're on plan about C or D now. And the kids got used to watching me fail, and they went, oh, okay, so in this classroom when you fail, it's not a big deal. You just learn from it and go on. So that's a tip I would give you, is you are going to fail. So if you know you're going in and you're going to fail, then be able to use that to your advantage to help your kids know everybody fails, and it's okay.
While you're student teaching, find somebody that you can grab onto that will teach your same subject. It might not be the exact same thing, or have your cooperating teacher point you in the direction of someone who can help you get started. Personally, I still do a lot of work over the summer because it lets me focus on things that I want to when the school year starts. You're going to be inundated with new teacher meetings and signing up for insurance and all those things, and all you're going to want to do is be in your classroom and getting stuff on the walls and making copies and writing your syllabus, and that's when it gets stressful. So if you can network with somebody in advance, and that starts now. If you're looking for jobs now in student teaching, use your teacher's resources and your teacher's friends' resources. There are so many people that do want to help you. We have kids. We want more good teachers teaching our kids, not just maintaining the status quo as we are. So we care. We're out there. If you're a math teacher, hit me up. I'm happy to help you. And I'm sure all these teachers would too if they apply to your discipline. So there's 7 of us, and I'm sure there are tons and tons and tons more.
And as I said, teachers are really kind, good people. They're good people that are willing to help you out there. I work with a lot of first-year teachers, and it's so common for them to try to shut their door and act like they're doing fine and they're struggling. So don't be afraid to go ask someone. Don't be afraid to be honest. I mean, it might be 3 years before you say, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was supposed to look at the recess schedule in the lounge. I didn't even know that was there. You know, sometimes it takes a long time, but just don't be afraid to ask, because teachers really are kind, good people ready to help you.
Someone told me once the only thing that you can control in your day is what time you get to school, because everything else you don't know what's going to happen. So the only thing you control is what time you get there every day. I'm early because that is the only thing I can control, and it makes me feel good. Find and use a mentor, they've said. Stay away from the negative people in the building. There are going to be some. There are really good people. There are really good teachers. Stay away from the negative ones. Go to the positives. I had another great person tell me one time, Jesus only saved 11. And we're not Jesus. And so it's hard, and you want to save them all. But know that it gets better. Focus on the positive each day. Focus on the wins. It's easy for us to know this one kid did this one thing. Focus on the positives. Take a positive away with you every day. Even if it's, I got to go to the bathroom before noon. Focus on the positives. Stick with it, because you guys are going to be awesome.
I would say, as a first-year teacher, to make sure that you take time for yourself. It's very easy to, you have so much to do. And so I remember being at the school until 5 o'clock, sometimes 7 o'clock at night. And so you need to set yourself a schedule and say, this day I'm leaving at 4 o'clock. No matter, the papers are going to be there tomorrow, so make sure that you take that time for yourself. Second thing would be to tell stories about yourself, because the students really want to know that you are human and that you're not just up there being the teacher that is, helping them and guiding them. They want to know what you're like as a person. And then the third thing would be to consider, as I mentioned earlier, attend the outside activities, or, if you feel inclined to perform in a role as a club sponsor, it really can build relationships with students, but don't take on too much, especially your first year.
I'd say just ask questions like these ladies have said, beg, borrow, steal. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel every single day, but get help from others. And like she said, take care of yourself. Your immune system is going to fail you because it's not used to everything those little babies bring in, especially if they're little ones. So take care of yourself, because otherwise you'll be sick even longer.
And I would add to those great ideas to prepare and over-prepare. If you're prepared, things will go so much smoother. Back to school night is something, that's usually the first time the parents come in and you're up in front of them explaining your classroom situation, your elementary classroom, or your high school content. And if you get up there and you're prepared, those people just want to know that you care about their child. So if you can just let them know that you're there for them and that you have an open door policy with email, let me know if there's a problem, and it will really help you make your year go better. It really will. But just be prepared. I know a lot of times teachers, you get the book out, oh, I'm going to be doing chapter 1, and you have that written down, but it really will help you if you have a lot of other good ideas to go along with that. And trust yourself and take care of yourself like everybody said. So.
All right, we're going to wrap up with a quick lightning round of questions. Here we go, and that's just going to pass the microphone down and cross your fingers and hope that it keeps working long enough for us to get through the next 3 questions. And so no elaboration necessary, just it's a short answer part of the afternoon. Name a book that you've read that really changed the way you teach.
Probably The First Days of School by Harry Wong.
Help for Billy. It really helps with the struggling students.
Book Whisper.
Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Book Whisper and Reading in the Wild.
iGen.
Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Excellent. Next question, and I'm going to guess I'm going to know the answer to some of these answers. Name the one thing that you don't have that would make you a better teacher.
Younger knees and hips.
A bigger classroom.
Time.
Time.
I would like more of me.
I could say all of those, but I'm going to say a crystal ball because I would be a rich woman.
All right. My guess was time, but now I like Paula's answer. To some of us in the room, that's pretty funny. Right.
I didn't laugh.
This will be the last question of the day before we wrap up. What's your favorite attribute in a student?
Positive attitude.
Kindness.
Kindness.
So good. Perseverance.
Work ethic.
Resilience.
Self-reliance.
We can set that aside. It won't bother us anymore. We have invited these teachers on campus today to celebrate them and to honor the work that they do. And here for the last hour and 15 minutes, we put them back to work teaching. And so we appreciate that a lot. Thank you all so much for being here today. So we'll just close with you all expressing your appreciation too with a round of applause for our